Let's review briefly what we did yesterday. All right, let's talk about line. I'm sorry. What was first? Line wasn't first. Getting ahead of myself. Point. Right. Point was first. Okay. So we label a point, or we show a point on a piece of paper with just a dot. A dot represents where that point is. But we label the point. If you wanted to say what point that was, if you wanted to name it and label it, how do you label it? What do you put next to it? Just any old letter? Is that good enough to name that point? It's got to be capital. That's right. It's got to be a capital letter. You can use any letter you want. I'll just start using A. All right, so you use a capital letter to name a point. That's it. All right, pretty simple. Let's talk about a line. A line goes like this. How many points are on that line right there? An infinite number of points. That's right. There's an infinite number of points right here. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to label a couple of them. I'll go to the bottom of the alphabet on this. Okay, so I labeled a couple points on this line right here. Now we can name the line. If I know 2 points on a line, I can now name the line. Now I could have like 5 or 6 points on this line, but I still only use 2 points to name the line. So if I have these 2 points right there, I could name it line XY. Or does it have to be in that order? Does it matter what order it is? No. It doesn't matter at all. I could say YX. It's the same exact line. It's no different. There is no beginning. There is no end to it. All right, so it doesn't matter which letter goes first, as long as 2, listen, 2 points on that line. What if I introduced another point? What if I put a point right there and call it Z? Now, do I change it and call this line XZY? No. How many points do we use to label a line? Use 2. You need to write that down somewhere. Okay, remind yourself. You only use 2 points, only. No less, no more. Exactly. 2 points, name a line. Everybody hear that? 2 points, name a line, not 3. I gave a quiz yesterday in my honors class. They're up to like section 1.5 now, but they took one up to from 1.1 to 1.4. The first question on the test, or the quiz, whatever it was, I asked them to basically name this line. And I had about 3 or 4 people that actually wrote line XZY. That's not correct. I marked it wrong. It was wrong because you use how many points to name a line? 2. Question.
Could you do like XZ?
Yes, you could use any combination of the 2 points. Absolutely. That's what we're going to get to in a second. It's a good question. You can use any combination of those 2 points, but or of any of the points that are on that line. Okay? But you don't use 3 of them. You hear me? You do not use 3. You only use 2. Not 1, not 3. How many? 2. All right. So you could use any combination. You could say XZ, couldn't you? And you always put the line symbol over top of it. If I ask you to name a line, you always put the line symbol over top. Thank you. Okay, you could go XZ, or if you wanted to go backwards on that, you could say what? Well, if you want to go backwards on this, ZX. All right? Everybody see that? So I already got YX right there. So I could go XY or YX. I could go XZ or ZX. What's another name I could name this line? ZY, right. I could name it ZY. Good. I could name it ZY. Or, if I wanted to, I could go the other way and call it YZ. Now look at this. I've got 6 different ways I can name that line right there. And any of those 6 would be fine. So if I give you 3 points, don't use all 3 of them. Use how many? 2. 2 points on that line. And it doesn't matter what combination, it doesn't matter what order, you're going to use 2 points. And you're probably thinking, all right, I got it. Okay, why does he keep going on and on and on about this? Because I know that later on, I've seen this so many times, not just in CP classes, but in honors classes as well, that chapters into the book, people are still not labeling their lines correctly. And there are times when you don't label it correctly, I'm going to mark it wrong. All right, it's very important that you know how to label these lines. This is not just going to be section 1.1 and you're done with it. This stuff is going to be throughout the whole entire book. All right, I promise you, almost, I think, every single chapter, you're going to have to know about lines, how to label lines, and all that kind of thing. All right, so that's why I'm harping on this so much, because I know you're going to use this a lot later on, so make sure we keep that straight. Now, this is something we didn't talk about yesterday, but let me show you another way to name a line. Let's make the line white. Okay, let's just make it go the other direction just to be different. Like this. And let's put, what if I don't have any points labeled on this line at all? Then I really couldn't name it. But here's another way you can name it. You can use a lowercase letter. Are you writing all this down? Or is that your notes? Why don't you have notes in front of you? I asked you. I asked everybody to get their notebook out. If you don't have a notebook, get a sheet of paper and take some notes on this. This is not optional. Okay? No, I don't have a piece of paper. You are supposed to have a piece of paper. It's not my job to supply you with paper.
Thanks, Mom.
So here we go. I don't think you're taking this seriously. I think you're taking this as a joke. This is not a joke. Here's another way you can name this line. You can use a lowercase letter. A lowercase letter to name the line. It doesn't represent a point though. Alright? So a lot of times they love to call it line L, I guess because line starts with L. So a lot of times they use line L or M or N. You can use any letter of the alphabet. It really doesn't make any difference. But you make it lowercase. It's not an uppercase. It doesn't represent a point. Alright? It's not a point on this line. So if I put a point on this line, I cannot call this line A. Because that's a point on a line, that's only one point. I can't call it line A. But I can call it line L. Alright? Or whatever letter you want to use. Doesn't make any difference. Okay? You could call it line M. As long as it's lowercase. Okay? You could call it line A. It's lowercase. Everybody see that? Or a T. Or an S. Or something like that. Okay? You could call it any of those letters right there. Alright? You can't call it line A. But if we did this, there's actually three ways I could call this line. Let's list the 3 ways. Let's do the one I just talked about. Let's use this. What could I call this line using that letter right there? Line S. Remember, the S is not a point on the line. Everybody hear me? Listen to what I'm saying. This S is not a point on the line. It's a lowercase letter. It's just down below the line. We just call the whole entire line line S. It does not mean that point S lies on that line. We just call it line S. What's another way? I'll put an or. What's another name I could call this line? We just talked about it earlier before I put this S right here. AB, right. Call it line AB. And notice, when I say line S, I actually write the word line and then I put an S. I don't put a little line symbol over it. But if I called it AB, I don't write the word line AB. I do AB and then what over top of it? That little arrows thing, right? Okay. So that means line AB. Don't write line AB. And even if you did this, there's no reason. Because this is like redundant. It's saying what? Line AB, right? That would be kind of silly. You don't need both of them. So if you use this arrow symbol, don't put the word line in front of it. If it's just a lowercase letter, then you do put the word line in front of it. All right? Or you could call it, what's another way? BA, right? So I said there's 3 different ways you can name this line. Be line S, line AB, or line BA. In fact, I'm going to give you a quiz sometime a little bit later. That one of the questions on the quiz, and this is one of the same questions that was on the honors quiz. I give you a line and I say name another. I think I might have put another letter here. It says something like what is another name for line S? All right, so you got all this stuff right here, and the question says what is another name for line S? So what would you say? You could say line AB. That would be fine. You could say line AC. You could say line CB, couldn't you? But again, what I say earlier, what the honors kids did, some of the honors kids said line what? ACB. Is that correct? No, it's wrong. I marked it wrong on the quiz. If you use 3 letters, I marked it wrong. I know. I can tell by your reactions. You're getting a little tired of this. But I'm doing this for a reason. Because I know I can almost put money on it that I'm going to give you this quiz and somebody is going to write line ACB. Let's not respond. Just listen to me. I could almost bet, and I don't bet. I'm not a betting person, okay? But if I was, I bet you I could make a couple bucks because I know somebody's going to put 3 letters here, even though you run the tape back, and I probably said this like 10 times, that you use 2 points and not 3. All right, so I want to get this into your head. Write it down somewhere so you don't miss that problem. I'm trying to help you, right? I'm not trying to be mean to you. I'm not trying to be mad at you or anything like that. I want to help you. I want you to get these problems right and understand this. Okay, enough of that. Let's go to the third word. What was the third one? We did point, then we did line, then we did what? Plane. Let's talk about this just a little bit more. Let me tilt this a little bit because that's what they usually make the planes look like in the book. All right. And we label the plane. How do we label a plane? With a what? What's that? What kind of letter? A capital letter. And where do we put it? Do I call that plane A like that? I put it in one of the corners. That's right. It's got to be in one of the corners, okay? It doesn't matter which one. It's got to be in one of the corners. Let's just call this A right there. But if you look in the book, they make the letter in the corner. They make it kind of fancy looking, all right? They put like little things here, like, I don't know, squiggly things. I don't know what they do. They make it look real kind of fancy looking. It's just a different type of a font, I guess. But they put it over here in the corner. It could be in any of the corners, but they would call this plane A. So let's write that down. Plane A. Use a capital letter. Now, it doesn't represent a point. It does not represent a point. So I don't say, oh, that's where point A is. No, it's not. It's called plane A. But here's another way I could name a plane. I could put some points on here. We'll go X, Y, Z this time. All right, so I could call this plane A. That's fine because you got this big capital crazy looking letter in one of the corners. But if I have three, not one, not two, but 3 points, I can name this plane using those 3 points. Now look, I could have a dozen points on this plane. All you got to do is pick 3 of them though. All right? And so I could name it plane A, or I could name it plane. Just pick 3 points that lie on this plane. What would it be? X, Y, Z. And that's how you would write it. There's no symbol or anything for it like there is for a line. You just write the word plane and say X, Y, Z. What if you stuck another letter in here, W? Is it X, Y, Z, W? No, you got to listen to what I said. What did I just say? How many points labels a plane? 3. 3 points label a plane. All right, so we don't say W, X, Y, Z. That would be 4. So you can pick any combination of these 3. It doesn't matter what order. It doesn't matter which 3, as long as those points are in the plane. What about this? We'll put a P out here. Look at this point right here. Is that point in the plane? No, it's outside the plane. So can I say this is plane WZP? No, because P is not in the plane, so I can't call this plane WZP. Make sense? I can only use 3 points that are actually in the plane. Let me just kind of demonstrate. See this piece of cardboard right here? This represents a plane. So watch, I could have point W here, X here, and let's see, yeah, W, X, Y, Z, all in this plane right here. Where would point P be located? Is it like right on the edge? Is that where it is? Okay. It's like away from it. It's not in the same plane, okay? It's like way out here. So I've got W, X, Y, Z right on top of this piece of cardboard right here, but point P is going to be sticking way out here like this. It's not in the same plane. It's not on the same flat surface. Does that make sense? All right? The flat surface is the plane. This point out here is not on that flat surface. We got it? Okay. Let's talk a little bit more. Let's do a little combination between a a line and a plane. Tell you what, we'll copy this. Now watch this. You're going to see a couple problems on the worksheet I'm going to give you that you're going to see a drawing that kind of looks like this. And let's make this line a different color. Let's make it, I don't know, blue. So there's a line. Okay, there's a plane. Let's name this plane. What do you want to name it? How about Q for question? There we go. All right, what about this right here? This is, we'll call it line A. All right, it's lowercase, isn't it? All right, it's lowercase. So this is what we would say with this. Everybody listening? We would say that line A, let's write it down. Line A lies on, what is this whole thing? Plane Q, right. Sometimes they'll actually, listen, sometimes they'll actually give you a picture and you have to describe the picture, like I just did. Line A lies on, right? It's on it. It's like this. Here's the plane. Here's the line. Boom. It's just like that. That's line A lying on plane Q. Everybody see that? Okay. Sometimes they'll do this. Sometimes they'll write this out. They'll say, draw a picture that represents this. All right, so they'll write those words out, and what do you have to do? You have to draw the plane, you have to label it, you got to draw the line, you got to label it, and make sure the line is actually on the plane. So there's several pictures, or there's several problems where you actually have to draw a picture, and that's how you would do something like that. Okay. I guess you could make it a square, but for some reason in the books they always kind of make them slanted like that. So when you draw a plane, slant it like this so it looks like all the other planes in the book. Okay, so that's what it should look like. Does that make sense? Now there's another type of line. This looks kind of weird. It's not quite as easy to draw, but so let's do this. Now watch. I'm going to try to keep this going. Pretend this is just like an extension of that line. It's a little bit wiggly, but you get the idea. Okay, so there's that and there's that. I'm going to put a big old dot right there, and we'll call this line B. Alright, now what in the world's going on there? It's still a line, it's not a ray. Somebody tell me. Well, it kind of looks like that in the picture there, doesn't it? Alright, like half of it's in it and half of it's out it. What does it say, Jada? Say it. Goes through it, exactly right. It kind of looks like this does lie on the plane, and sometimes it's hard to draw things three-dimensionally, right, when it's two-dimensional paper. But here, look up here, this is what's going on. Now, I'm not going to take my pen and actually jam it through here. If I had something, I would, but I don't. But just use your imagination. Watch. This pen, if I took this and it actually went through the plane, it would come out the other end, wouldn't it? Like this? Everybody with me on this? All right? So what do you think that dotted line is representing? Well, the point itself is where it's penetrating, right there. That's where it's actually hitting the plane itself. This part is like on top of the plane, right? See, the solid part is on top of the plane. What do you think that dotted line's representing? The part that you can't see. Who said that? Yep, it's the part that you can't see. Exactly right. Depending on your angle, looking at this thing, okay, there's a part of this line where you can't see it, right? You can see the part up here. Everybody can see that part. But if it comes down here like this, there's a part you can't see. The part you can't see is that dotted line. Make sense? So this is not lying on the plane. What do you think it's doing? It's going through. Good. That's the word we're going to use. It goes through the plane. Or, here's a good geometry word. It intersects. Intersects the plane. Okay? So we could say that line B, if we wanted to write this out in words, describe this picture. Line B, what? Intersects, and let's put a point right there. Intersects plane what? Q, where? Where does it intersect? At what? It's right there in front of you. It's at point P. Exactly right. So line B, write it down. I'm not going to write it, you write it. Line B intersects plane Q at point P. And that's what it would look like. Now, it doesn't have to be exactly right here. You could have done it out here, couldn't you? Or you could have done it up here. You could have done it anywhere on here. I just decided to do it right here. All right, so do you see the difference between the line being on the plane? This is what it would look like right here. On the plane, and this is what it would look like if it went through or if it intersected the plane. How many points does this line intersect the plane at? At how many points is that line? Just one, right. It just goes through and it only hits that plane at one point. How many points does this line A intersect plane Q? In an infinite. Good, that was a good answer. An infinite number of points at every single point that it touches, doesn't it? Every single point, an infinite number of points, because the line keeps going, the plane keeps going. Very good. Does this make a little sense? So the questions on this worksheet are going to be way different than what we've been doing so far this year. What you did in Algebra 1, you're going to have to look at pictures and just describe what's going on. They'll ask you questions about what's going on. Okay, you need to know about lying on the plane or going through it or intersecting and all that kind of thing. All right, so that's the kind of stuff they're going to ask you. It's going to be a lot different than what you're used to seeing in a math class. It won't even seem like it's math at first. Okay, eventually it will. Let's do a couple more and we'll be done. Watch this. All right, so here's two lines. It's a word we just talked about. They intersect, that's right. And they intersect at a what? Point. Well, now we don't know how many degrees it is, okay? We're not even going to talk about how many degrees or anything like that yet. But these two lines cross each other. They touch each other. Listen, they touch each other at one point. So two lines intersect at a point. Write it down on your paper. Two lines intersect at one point. Write it down. Two lines intersect at one point. Are you writing? Two lines intersect at one point. Now I got to stop this next one because this next one I'm going to do, I can't really draw it very well. So in my last class, I grabbed it off the internet. So let me go get it again. Okay, here we go. There's the picture we just got off the internet. What's going on here? I got two what? Now they didn't label it like I've been telling you to label it, did they? Let's... Anthony, say it. What'd you say? Two planes are intersecting. Exactly right. Now look, they put this little A right here. Now, what did I say to put it? In a corner, right? So we'll call that plane A. We'll call this one what? Plane B. All right, it's supposed to be a B. Can you see that all right? All right, Anthony said that these two planes are intersecting. Let me take these cardboard pieces. Now, again, I can't really, like, slice them through. If I was like that David Blaine or something like that, I could, but I can't. Okay, so watch. Pretend. Here's a plane, here's a plane. I want you to, remember, two lines intersect at a point. I want you to see where two planes intersect each other. Here's a plane, here's a plane. If they come together and they intersect, what do they form when they intersect each other? A line, okay? So where they touch each other is a straight line. All right, everybody see that? So two planes intersect in a what? In a line. Let's just say line. Two planes intersect in a line. Are you writing that down? Write it down. Two planes intersect in a line. So here's a question. Again, this is another question that I could ask you on the quiz, and I think I do. I ask you a question very, very close to this. So here could be a question. Where do, I think they might say where. The wording of the question might be a little different, but it says something like, where do planes A and B intersect? Or what does it form when they intersect, or something like that, okay? I'd probably say, where does plane A and B intersect? Well, they intersect at a line, don't they? So do I just say C, or do I just say D? Because this is a point, and this is a point. So what is that thing? It's a line, and it's line what? CD. And you put the line symbol over top of it. Don't forget the line symbol over top of it, okay? So if I asked you where those two planes intersect each other, you wouldn't just say at a line. You would tell me specifically which line, all right? At line CD. Everybody see that? So two planes, think of this thing right here when you think of two planes intersecting. Two planes intersect at a line. And this particular line right here is line CD. They've got it labeled for you. I'm giving you away like 2 or 3 or 4 quiz questions, exact quiz questions that you're going to have eventually, all right? So I hope you're writing that stuff down. All right, does that make sense? All right. 2 more words I want to give you. Actually, it's kind of 4, but they kind of relate to each other, all right? No moaning and groaning, okay? First of all, that's disrespectful to me, all right? Secondly, just suck it up, all right? Look, here we go. What if I had, you could have 2 or more. I just put 3. We'll call it, I don't know, Q, R, P, for whatever reason, I don't know. Okay, let's take a look. These lines right here, all 3 points lie what? On a line. Okay, they all lie on the same line, don't they? Listen now. These 3 points right here lie in the same line. I got to give you a word because you're going to see this in the worksheet. You won't know what it is. So these 3 points right here are called collinear. Okay, collinear points. Co means with. Okay, so with a line or on the line, they're part of that line. All right, so Q, R, and P are all in the same line, so they're collinear. What if I put a point up here, call it point K? Are Q, R, P, and K collinear? No. 3 of them lie on the same line, but this one doesn't. So all 4 of them are not collinear. Which ones are only collinear? Q, R, and P. There's another quiz question. I'll give you a line, and I'll say, name 2 points that are collinear. And you would say Q and R. Or you could say R and P, or you could say Q and P. Make sense? All right, so know what that word collinear means. What if I talked about Q, R, P, and K? Well, they're not collinear, are they? So we don't say the word not collinear, we say non-collinear. All right, so it's 4 words, but the non's not that big of a deal. Okay, so non-collinear. So Q, R, P, and K are non-collinear just because of the K, right? If I got rid of the K, Q, R, and P would be collinear. So we talked about a line. Let's do a plane. Let's do this again. Real quick, if I can. Transform, shear, okay. All right. Now, what if we had this? What if I had a point here, and a point here? We'll call that A, B, and C. Now look at A and B, and we'll call this J. All right, so it's plane J. All right, so watch. What about A and B? They lie on the same what in this picture? In the same plane. Okay, so if they lie on the same plane, here's the word. We call it. Oops, don't stop. It's called co-planar. Kind of makes sense, right? Collinear, coplanar. It lies on the same plane. So A and B lie on the same plane. Which plane do A and B lie on? J. Plane J, right. What about C, though? Now, C's kind of floating either above it or below it. It's not on the same plane itself, is it? As these other things. So A, B, and C would be what? Non-coplanar. Non-coplanar. All right, that's how we say it. So the points that lie on the same plane, and you need to write that down. I didn't do it. But coplanar are 2 points or 2 or more points that lie on the same plane. Non-coplanar, if the points do what? Not lie on the same plane. That's pretty easy to understand. We getting these? Like I said, this almost all of Chapter 1 is vocab. I mean, we're going to be doing some regular work, and we will do some math pretty soon here, okay? But this first section, anyway, is just about all vocab. It's how to, it's what words mean. It's how to label stuff. It's all that kind of thing. We're not really doing any real math like you're used to right now. All right, let me see if there's any other words on here. I think we've covered everything. Yep. All right, so that's it. So what you're doing worksheet. I'll even write it down. It's worksheet 1-1, and it's page 7. I don't know if we'll do page 8 or not, but again, if you lose this worksheet, it's on Teacheries under Digital Lockers. Okay, you can always download it and print it out. All right, so this will be due tomorrow. I'll pass it out. This will be due tomorrow, and have it done. The worksheet's page 7. Yeah, the worksheet is no, it says page 7 at the bottom of the worksheet. Okay.